kind of a pick me up today.
It absolutely is a pick me up.
You're looking fallish.
I am. We're both looking fallish.
Yeah. Hey, it's 1st of September.
It is.
I don't know about you, but I'm ready.
Can you believe it's the 1st of September?
No.
Do you think it'll be better than it was last month?
Yes, because there's only one way to go, and that's up.
It's so true. Oh my word, that is so true.
We're really glad you tuned in today. I'm Wilson.
Yeah, I'm Julie.
And welcome to Courageous Living Today. We really appreciate you watching and listening, and hope you'll hit that subscribe button because that will help us. Today we're going to talk about something that has no interest to you whatsoever.
Oh, none.
Okay. 6 ways to get your husband to agree to almost anything.
I like this topic.
6 ways to get your husband to agree to almost anything. You know, disagreements in marriage, it's kind of automatic, you think?
I wouldn't know.
Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. But I've heard that. I've heard others.
I've heard, it's our friends. Our friends talk
I've heard
about
others
it.
talk about that. But that somehow finding common ground between 2 people who often are opposites, and we're opposites in many ways. 2 people who are opposites, and to be able to find common ground becomes a matter of developing some communication skills.
It does. It does, because you want to.
Yes, absolutely.
It's very intentional.
Okay, it is. It is. So you've heard of the dog whisperer, and you've heard of the horse whisperer. Here is the husband whisperer.
I don't want that title. Oh my goodness! But you know what I think is funny is this topic was his idea.
Yeah, I'm driving home in the car last night, and I'm thinking, what could we give some ideas, some topics we could talk about, and this one just hit me.
Wow. Well, that's really interesting because I thought I didn't come up with this.
No.
He did. So maybe I'm doing something right. I don't know.
6 ways to get your husband to agree to almost anything.
Okay.
All right, number 1, I wrote down ask. Ask, because there's a biblical principle, even when it comes to our Father in heaven, God, he says, ask, and you shall receive. Or sometimes he says you do not have because you do not ask.
Because you do not ask. That's true.
And that same principle seems to me would apply between human beings who are trying to work out things in communication. And so the principle of ask.
Okay.
Don't assume.
Right. You know, don't assume. Okay, so this is the thing that can happen sometimes, ladies, and I'm thinking you're going to say, you're shaking your head. Sometimes our husbands aren't very approachable. Okay? I mean, we're just going to be real here. Sometimes they're not approachable. So it's hard. Do I ask? Because, maybe you've learned to do the dance, so to speak, that you just know which things you can't and can't say, and that becomes really difficult. So you may have something that's on your mind, and you would love to talk about it, but husbands have to be approachable.
Yeah. Well, but one of the things that I hear from husbands is that sometimes wives assume the husband ought to pick up on all of the signals.
Yeah, well, he should.
But the age of miracles
is over.
It's over.
No!
I cannot
Tell
read
me it's
your.
not so.
I cannot read your mind.
Oh well, actually, I'm kind of glad you can't. Because you might not like what's in there. No, seriously, you can't. I think sometimes we are guilty of that, ladies. We just think you ought to know. You've known me this long now, so you should figure it out. But we are individuals, and we have our own ways of thinking, and so it doesn't always just by osmosis just click over there.
Nope. You got to kind of sometimes plant a seed of thought. Maybe a little at a time, water it a little bit, fertilize it a little bit, and kind of go from there.
Get the hose out. Here, can you not listen?
Somehow this isn't going in the direction I envisioned.
Oh, well, shame.
Okay. But ask.
Yes, ask.
Ask kindly, ask gently, ask humbly. But sometimes we don't have because we do not ask.
True.
And ask in the right way. All right, secondly, I first wrote down pick your moment, and then you corrected me. Why?
Because picking a moment is almost if I get there, it'll happen. So I like to say, make a moment. Make your moment. Make it. In other words, you are going to intentionally work on that moment. You're not going to just kind of wait for some magical time to appear, but you are intentionally wanting this opportunity to happen. So it's not like you just stumble up on. You make the time to talk about whatever it is you need to talk about.
How important in husband-wife communication is timing?
Timing's very critical. It's very critical because of the fact that we don't know what's going on each other's minds, and we have no idea what each other is thinking about, what's contributing to it, are the environments at the time. So, timing's good.
What is it that Paula Deen says? It's all in the presentation. Wouldn't that kind of play into the
love
same
Paula
thing?
Yes, presentation. It works at the table, and it works in the marriage.
So pick your moment.
So make your moment.
Oh, make your moment.
Oh my!
I messed up, didn't I? Make your moment. Okay, got it. Number 3,
Yes.
You got to get his attention. You've got to get his attention, and not by manipulation. We're not talking about trying to trick your spouse, which sometimes that happens. In fact, there's examples in the Old Testament of that happening, and that's a temptation.
Okay. So, getting your husband's attention, that can be difficult for lots of reasons. I can think of a few. They've just come home from work. Not a good time. They are watching a sports or some kind of something on TV that they're really interested in, and that's not a good time. Or that you're in a rush to go do something, and that's not a good time. And so you have to find when to get the attention. But here's something too: is perhaps make that moment and say, there's something I really want to talk with you about. When would be a good time?
I like that.
See,
I like
that way, there's none of this getting caught off guard, because that's not fair to anybody. I wouldn't like that either.
Yeah, and I would add to that: never use sex as a motivation.
No,
That's not what that very special relationship is all about.
No, and I've heard some women that do that, and I don't think it's not healthy for anybody, because that's such manipulative behavior. And if you'll do manipulation as far as in that, you will manipulate all kinds and orchestrate all kinds of things, and that does not contribute to a healthy marriage. So no, do not do that.
And I would also add, when he listens and then he starts down the path of why this doesn't work or why this won't work, you need to listen to what he says as well. And so the listening is on both parts, because just as she needs to be heard, the husband needs to be heard as well. And half of communication, 50% of communication, is listening.
True. Now, and here's something, ladies. If he's going down the path of this won't work, because sometimes I have thought, okay, he's just shooting us down, and I'm just like, shot down, pew, done, and and here's what I've had to learn: that I've got to let all of that just be said, and then acknowledge I've heard that, but go back again to what it is we're talking about. Yeah, I hear you. However, maybe I need to get the hose out and water more.
Well, think about it. Just
it's true.
Just tell me that you'll at least give it some thought.
Sure.
And I love it when you say that to me. And
both times I have.
Yep, twice. And it gives me permission that says I don't have to make a decision. We don't have to make a decision right now.
Yeah.
But at least we plant the seed. We give it some thought time. Come back together at another occasion
What's
and
an
talk about it more.
example of when that's kind of happened?
Like what?
What's an example of when I've brought something up to you and it had to kind of it had to
percolate?
Kind of be, it had to kind of swirl in there for a while. What was the
Oh, I can't think of one.
Oh, I can.
But the biggie would be the adoption.
Yeah.
The biggie would be the adoption, because I said no.
Yeah, you did.
No.
Mm-hmm.
And it had to kind of.
It did.
And you handled it really well.
Yeah, I just thought that has to that is the best way.
Yeah.
I just think that's the best way.
Well,
just
you
can't.
planted the
That's a big-
seed, and then
that's
you
a big
kind of
decision.
wait. Yeah, oh, it's a big one.
Yeah, it's a big decision.
It's a big one. And if husband and wife are not both on board, doesn't need to happen.
No.
Doesn't need to happen.
Does not need to happen.
But that's true for a lot of things.
Exactly.
Okay, number 4.
Yes.
Prioritize. And what I mean by that is, and this kind of goes in to get his attention, is to tell him, for example, on a scale of 1 to 10, how important this particular thing is to you. So if we're talking and you say, this is really, really important to me, it would help to hear, this is kind of an 8, 9 on my scale of 1 to 10. And in other words, that kind of gets my attention, and it says, hey, this really matters to her.
Yeah, and don't pick 5.
No,
5.
you can't pick 5.
No, we learned that from Jane Baker. Thank you, Jane.
Can't do that.
But yeah, don't pick 5. But if it's really important to you, and so much so that you need to have a conversation like ASAP, then that's a good way to indicate how important the conversation
Well, and
is.
it could be about parenting. It could be a situation involving a child, a teenager, whatever. And both of you all need to be on, you need to bring the other spouse up to speed.
Yes.
And then both of you all need to be on the same page.
Exactly.
That's a priority. And so, on a scale of 1 to 10, this is
big
big.
news.
This is big. It's 8 or 9. We need to talk about this and sit down and make sure we're on the same page. And number 5, be appreciative of his support.
Yeah.
And be affirming in your love.
Yes. I think when I talk with women, that's one of the things that they say they don't do enough of. I mean, I think we recognize that, that we don't say enough of, I appreciate this, or without you, this couldn't happen, or I'm thankful for you, and I need you in my life. And I don't think we say that enough. I haven't said that enough, but I think that is really important.
It is, because both of us, we need validation. We both need to know that we are special and valued by the other. And it's easy to say, well, I told her that once, I hadn't changed my mind, but we need to hear it over and over and over again. Yeah.
Yeah, don't do that. We do. We need to be validated. Here's the thing. As adults, and if your parents are still living, do we not still want to be validated in some way by our parents? As in, I really need you, or thank you, or just because there's parts of us where that child shows up again.
Oh, sure.
And if our parents acknowledge us in such a way, that's really helps us feel good about that relationship.
Yeah.
It just goes back to being that child again. So do that in just even a little note, a little card, a little call, a text, whatever. Just find some way to do that. That's a good idea.
Solomon, words rightly spoken are like apples of gold in settings of silver.
Yes, I like
So
that.
sometimes it's all of the timing of the right words and how we say it, the tone we say it, and when we say it. Number
Right.
6,
Oh, there's number 6.
pray.
Okay.
Pray.
Yeah.
I think of Mordecai, Esther, and I think about that situation there that was so stressful. And Esther said, you go and everybody needs to pray about this, and before she went into her husband. And so there needs to be some prayer there, and ask God for wisdom and grace, and ask Him for His help to be able to approach this in the very best way.
Do you know that most couples that I talk to don't pray together? They just don't. I mean, it's not anything they ever started. Sometimes I think it's something they don't think about. I don't think they're purposefully not doing it. I think it's just that they just don't think about it. And I love that powerful kind of prayer where a husband and wife are making a petition to God about their lives together, or things that are happening in their lives, and asking God to work in their lives or thanking God for how he has worked in your life. So prayer is really important, and individually our prayers are just as important, that we pray that we will be who we need to be for our spouses. And I just know we just don't do enough praying.
Sure. We talk about it.
Oh yes, we talk about it, and it's almost like, this, if we can get enough on Sunday, that should do us until the next week.
Yeah.
So I shouldn't have to do any more, right?
So what we've said
Yeah.
is there's an art to this process of negotiation.
Yeah.
I hate to use that word, but I mean, a lot of times that's the case when it comes to husbands and wives, just like anybody else. There has to be some give and some take and some negotiation and some understanding in order to kind of reach an agreement and move
agree.
on. Jesus said in Matthew 7 verse 12, the rule we call the golden rule, treat other people the way you want them to treat you. And I think that applies especially in this marriage relationship.
Right. Well, I like the word you use, process, because it takes time to make all these things happen.
It does.
Because when you first get married, it's such a learning time,
You mean
and
everything's not perfect?
it was not, hun. Breaking news. No, it's not. I mean, we think it's going to be,
But
because
you've done so much better.
Okay, forget these 6.
Well, we've got to go. Our time is up.
Our time is up. Woo! No, I'm just saying that when you first get married, it's really hard because there are expectations you have, and a lot of times those expectations just go out the window. And so it takes a lot of time to learn about one another. And then when children come along, you learn about one another again.
Yes.
And because you have new emotions and you have new responsibilities and all this new. And so this is a work in progress. It doesn't happen instantaneously because you're now husband, wife. It just doesn't work that way.
Well, we got to go. Courageous Living Today. Thanks for tuning in and listening, and hopefully we've said something that's been encouraging.
Yes.
Hit that subscribe button. Leave us a
Like
comment.
us.
Leave us a comment.
I
Even
know.
tell us we're crazy. It doesn't matter.
Oh, tell us that Wilson's crazy. It doesn't matter.
Goodbye,
Thanks,
everybody.
guys. Bye.
Thanks.